The day before I turned 27, I checked my account balance and it read $4.12. Not because I'd just gotten paid and spent it, because that's just where it always sat, every single week, no matter what I did. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't buying anything crazy. I just had no system. So money came in, panic came in right behind it, and then it left again before I even understood where it went. A year later, that same account had a real cushion in it for the first time in my adult life, and something I didn't expect happened along the way. My anxiety didn't just get smaller. It basically retired. Today, I'm walking you through the exact system that did it, because it had almost nothing to do with earning more money. Before I get into it, I need to be honest about something most finance content skips over completely. Nobody ever explains that financial anxiety and an actual financial problem are two different things that just happen to feel identical. I used to think my anxiety was caused by not having enough money. What I eventually figured out is that most of it was caused by not knowing what I could safely spend, not knowing if a bill would bounce, not knowing if I was one bad week away from disaster. The number in my account barely changed for the first 2 months of this system, but the not knowing disappeared almost immediately. And that alone cut the anxiety in half before a single extra dollar was saved. There's research that actually backs this up. A study out of Northwestern found that financial stress activates the same regions of the brain as physical pain, and it doesn't scale down just because the dollar amount is small. Your brain doesn't know the difference between owing $400 and $4,000. It just registers threat. That's why I couldn't think my way out of this with a bigger paycheck alone. I needed a system that made the threat go away, not just a system that made the number go up. Move 1. I built what I started calling my safe to spend number. And this single move did more for my anxiety than anything else on this list. Every single morning, my banking app was showing me my total balance, which included rent money, bill money, and grocery money, all mixed together in one terrifying pile. Of course, I felt anxious. I was looking at a number that lied to me every day. So I opened a second account and moved every fixed bill into it the day I got paid. What was left in my main account was the only number I was allowed to look at, and it was finally an honest one. The first morning I opened the app and saw a small, calm, accurate number instead of a big, scary, mixed up one, I actually felt my shoulders drop. That was week 1. Move 2. I gave every dollar a name before it landed in my account, not after. Before this system, I'd get paid and then spend the next 3 weeks anxiously guessing whether I could afford things. So I sat down once a month and assigned every single dollar a job in advance. Rent had a job. Groceries had a job. Even fun money had a job, because starving yourself of every small joy is how these systems collapse in week 3. If a dollar didn't have a job, it went straight into the next move, which is where the actual cushion started forming. Move 3. I automated a tiny, almost embarrassing transfer of $30 a week into a separate savings account. And I want to be clear that $30 a week is not a lot of money. I chose it on purpose. I needed a number small enough that I would never once talk myself out of it, because the goal wasn't to get rich fast. The goal was to prove to my own nervous system that saving was actually possible for me. Somewhere around week 9, I checked that account and it had crossed $200. And I remember staring at it thinking, this is the first time in my life I've ever had money sitting somewhere that wasn't already spoken for. Move 4. I created what I call a worry appointment. One specific 15-minute block every Sunday night where I was allowed to look at every account, every bill, and every number. And outside of that window, I wasn't allowed to check anything. This sounds small, but it might be the move that changed the most. Before this, I was checking my balance 6 or 7 times a day, and every single check was a tiny hit of anxiety, even when nothing was wrong. Containing it to one weekly appointment meant my brain got 6 days off a week from a habit that had quietly been running in the background like a leak the entire time. Move 5, and this is the one that actually let the anxiety fully step back. I built a rule that said any dollar in that separate cushion account was for a real emergency and nothing else, defined in advance, written down, decided while I was calm. A real emergency was something unexpected, necessary, and urgent, all 3 at once. A weekend trip did not qualify, no matter how good the deal looked. This mattered because the whole point of the cushion wasn't the number itself. It was knowing with total certainty that if something actually went wrong, I already had an answer. My nervous system didn't need the account to be huge. It just needed to know the account existed and that I wouldn't quietly raid it the second life got boring. About 8 months in, my car needed a repair that would have completely wrecked me a year earlier. $410. I paid it from the cushion account, refilled it over the next few weeks exactly the way I'd planned, and moved on with my week like it was nothing, because by that point, it actually was nothing. That was the moment I realized the anxiety wasn't circling back anymore. Not because the number in my account was enormous. It genuinely wasn't. It was because for the first time, money had rules instead of chaos, and my brain finally believed it could stop bracing for impact all day, every day. What actually changed wasn't just my bank account. I stopped opening my banking app first thing every morning with my stomach already in knots. I stopped lying awake, doing anxious math at midnight. I started sleeping through the night for the first time since I was maybe 19 years old. Nobody ever told me that a system, not a salary, was the actual cure. I had to build the whole thing myself, starting from $4.12. If this gave you a system you can actually use starting today, hit subscribe, because the next video breaks down exactly how I turned that first small cushion into a full year of expenses. And that part moves a lot faster than you'd think. Before you go, tell me honestly, is your anxiety about money coming from an actual number problem, or is it coming from the not knowing, the way mine was? Drop it in the comments, because a lot of people reading tonight are about to realize it's the second one.